Hello. If you're working to develop your own IoT application, this quick hits video will help get you on your way quickly and efficiently. In this video, we'll create a custom refrigeration monitoring solution from the ground up. With the right tools, you'll be able to get this custom application up and running in just a few short minutes. So check this out. Hi, I'm Robert Lutz with Systech Corporation. So you're looking to tackle the job of developing a custom IoT application. For example, you might want to implement a commercial refrigeration monitoring system to be used in restaurants, grocery stores, or even a refrigerated warehouse. The goal of this application is to eliminate costly food spoilage that may occur if a refrigeration unit fails or the temperature rises for whatever reason. Traditionally, this could take months and months of research and development. You have hardware issues to consider. For example, what sensors to use, what communication technology, should it be hardwired or wireless, how to bridge the data to the cloud. You also have software to deal with, how to collect the data, how to act on the data. Should you perform local data analytics? Can you compress the data to save communication costs? Then you'll have cloud software to develop. And what about the user interface? Perhaps a native app for the end user? All this takes time and development resources. Your real goal and a true measure of success is how quickly can you develop and refine your IoT application and convert it from a development project to a revenue-producing application. At Systech Corporation, we're here to help you. We have the hardware and software products and tools to get you into your IoT market quickly and economically. To demonstrate how you can use these tools, we're going to develop a refrigeration monitoring application from the ground up, right here in this single short video. This is real, and I'm not going to do anything behind the scenes. It'll be using readily available hardware that you can typically purchase from multiple sources. I'm going to initialize and set everything up from scratch as if opening these products for the first time. Yet, when this video is complete, it will be a fully functioning refrigeration monitoring IoT application. Typically, these quick hits videos are about 5 minutes long, but since this video will build an entire application from scratch, it'll run a bit longer. I'll be going through the development process quickly, perhaps even fast-forwarding at times. Feel free to pause or slow down the video as desired to see every step. So let's get started. Okay, so the goal of this application is to prevent food spoilage if the refrigeration unit temperature goes too high or if it fails for whatever reason. And so we're going to trigger an alert, an alarm, if the temperature goes above 5 degrees Fahrenheit or if the door is left open too long of the refrigeration unit, maybe longer than 5 minutes. For the equipment, we'll use the Systech SysLink SL600 gateway to communicate with the different devices and to make the decisions. We use a Z-Wave wireless strobe light and siren unit. We use a wireless door contact switch and a wireless temperature sensor. All right, let's get started. So the first step is to add the devices to the gateway. So we'll go to the Manage Devices in Z-Wave and add the devices. So we'll go to the add mode, and that puts the gateway in the add mode. So if you press a button on the device, so in this case, I'll press the button on the motion sensor first. So I press that button, and that will communicate to the gateway. The gateway will communicate to the device, find out what type of device it is, and then provide the different properties that the device supports. So I will immediately rename it from the default name that it provided. We'll call it something meaningful. We'll call this the temperature sensor. Now that that device is added, we'll go ahead and add the second device, go back into add mode, and now I'll add the wireless door contact switch. Again, pressing the button on the switch, which will put the device into the pairing mode, communicate with the gateway to tell it what it is. The gateway will add it to the list of devices. And here I will rename this sensor door contact. Okay, then I'll add the next device, go back to the add pairing device, and we'll add the strobe light. There's a button on the back of the strobe light. I'll press that, and that will put the gateway into the add mode, pair it with the device, communicate with the device to find out what properties it supports. And I'll go ahead and rename that device to the local alert. Oops. Okay, now we'll add one more device. In this case, it's a virtual device rather than a physical device. We want to alert the local manager of the restaurant of the fact that the temperature unit is failing. So we want to send a message to the cell phone. So I'll create a virtual device for the cell phone. So here we'll leave the Z-Wave add mode and go back to manage devices, and we'll create a virtual device. Now there are a variety of virtual devices you can add. I'll talk about these in other videos. In this case, we are going to add a text messenger. Okay, and we'll go ahead and name this one too. We'll call this the manager cell phone. Okay, so now we've added all the devices. In fact, we can see these devices in action. If we look at the devices and we go to the door contact, for example, we can see that the door contact is closed. If I were to open the door like this, we can see that the contact switch indicates open on the user interface. And we close it, and the contact switch becomes closed again. In this case, the Z-Wave device is communicating to the gateway. The gateway is reflecting that status up to the cloud, and we're looking at that status on the browser. Now, to make this a little more user-friendly, I will change it so that the property of the device becomes apparent right here on this primary screen. So to do that, for the door contact, for example, we'll change it to a favorite device, which makes the view of it larger, and we will select the door contact as being the primary or key property. So enable it there. Now once I do that and bring that down, we can see that the property is larger, and also now the property state is visible right there on the main screen. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on the temperature sensor also. So change that to a favorite and select, and this particular device reports lots of information: temperature, humidity, luminescence, things like that. We're going to select the room temperature, which is the temperature of the device. We'll select that as the key property. So that's what will be visible on the main display. And then finally, we'll do that on the local alert as well. So make that a favorite device and select the siren strobe setting as the key property. Okay, so now we can see that. And again, if we were to, for example, open the door, now that status changes right there on that main screen. Okay, and we can see the room temperature of the room I'm in right now is 76 degrees. So we have the devices, and we can actually see the properties of devices, and we can change property of devices as well. For example, if I were to go into the local alert, in fact, I don't even have to open it. I could just select the alert setting here and change that to strobe. And if you look down here, we can see that the strobe light is now flashing. So we've actually gone the other direction. We've been able to remotely control a device. I'm going to go ahead and turn that back off from the user interface, which turns off the strobe light right here. Okay, so that's half of the application right there. We have all the devices added. We can physically add it to the refrigeration unit. Now we do the programming, the if this then that functionality. So we can configure the gateway so that it can make decisions based on the values coming from the sensors. So let's do that. So in this case, we'll go from the devices page to the scripts page. Scripts is where we program the different actions. Right now, there are no scripts, and so we're going to create some. So let's create the script that generates an alert if the temperature goes too high first. So I'll select Create Script, and we'll name the script. We'll call it Temperature Too High. Okay, and then we decide whether we want to trigger on something or just have the script run all the time. So in this case, we want to trigger on something. We want to trigger on the temperature of the refrigeration unit. So the temperature is one of the devices we've added. So I'll select Device. And here's a list of devices that we've added to the gateway. So this list could be short or long, depending on the devices you've actually added to the gateway you're programming. So these are the devices we've added. We want to select the temperature sensor. And we're going to trigger on the temperature sensor, which has a lot of different properties, including room temperature. So we'll select room temperature. So we're going to trigger if that room temperature is greater than, and in this application, we want to choose 5 degrees. So let's select 5 there and say OK. And we can add other conditions like time of day or other kinds of functions, but we're just going to say done on this trigger. So we're triggering on the temperature rising above 5 degrees. What are we going to do after that occurs? Well, we want to turn on the strobe light to set the local alert. So we're going to set, and these are the devices that we could set properties on based on what we've already attached to the gateway. So I want to set the local alert device, the siren strobe setting of that device, and I want to turn on the strobe light. And I can add other functions as well, other things to do, but I'm just going to say done for now. So here is our script as we've created it on the browser. So this is up in the cloud. It's not on the gateway yet. But we will trigger if the temperature sensor is above 5 degrees, and if so, we will turn on the local strobe light. So this is up in the cloud. To compile it and send the software down to the gateway, all we do is select that Update Gateway button, and that will send it to the gateway. And then the final step is to activate that script. All scripts default to inactive. So that script is now up and running on the gateway itself. Now, if we look at the devices, we can actually see that the strobe light has turned on. So why is that? Well, the temperature within this room, which is where this temperature sensor is sitting, is higher than 5 degrees, so that's already turned on the strobe light. So that looks like it's working well. So to balance this out, we also want to be able to turn off the strobe light if the temperature goes below 5 degrees. So let's go ahead and create that script while we're here. So go to Scripts, and we will add another script, and we'll call this temp OK. And we want to trigger on the temperature again. So the device, which is measuring the temperature, is the temperature sensor. And we will trigger if the room temperature, or the temperature of the sensor, is less than 5 degrees. Okay, so if that happens, and only that happens, we will turn off the strobe light. So I'm going to set the local alert, which is the strobe light, the strobe setting of that local alert, to off. And that's all we need to do. That's up in the cloud, so I'll update the gateway, which will compile that software and send it to the gateway. So now we have 2 scripts in the gateway, and I'll go ahead and activate that one. So now we have 2 scripts based on the temperature. At the moment, the strobe light is still flashing in my office because the temperature is still above 5 degrees, so that has not turned off the strobe light yet. Okay, so that's half the application where we're able to trigger on the temperature going too high. The other half of the application is triggering if the door is open too long. So for that, we'll use the door contact switch as well as a timer, a virtual timer, because we don't want to set the alert off if the door is open immediately. We want to wait a certain amount of time, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or for the purpose of the demo, we'll probably do about 10 seconds. So for that, we'll create a virtual timer. So let's do that now. So we'll go to Manage Devices, Virtual Devices, and we'll add a virtual device. There's a wide variety of virtual devices we can add, but in this case we'll add a timer device. And let's name that timer device just to make it more meaningful for the application. So since this timer is going to be timing a door, let's call this the door timer. And the property of that is units of seconds, so it'll be fine for this demo. Perfect. So let's go create a script now to trigger when the door is open too long. So we'll go to Scripts, and we'll create a new script. And the script in this case will be called door open, since it'll trigger when the door is becoming open. So it'll trigger on one of the devices, the device being the door contact. And the property of the door contact is contact. And we'll trigger if it is open. So it knows the different properties that are valid for a contact switch being open and closed. So in this case, we don't want to turn on the strobe light, but rather we simply want to start that timer. So we'll go to the door timer, and we'll set the timer period for not 5 minutes like you normally would, but rather just about 10 seconds. Let's say 10. And then we'll start the timer. So we'll set the property of the door timer, the timer state, to start. It's like starting a stopwatch. Done. So we've created that script. We'll compile it by clicking Update Gateway. When the door contact is triggered and opened, we will start the timer and we'll activate that script. Okay, and then the second script we'll create is what to do when the timer times out. So we'll go back to Scripts and we'll create another script. We'll call this door timeout. So this we want to trigger when the timer actually reaches its expiration. So we'll trigger on the device, and we'll do the door timer, the virtual device of the door timer. And then when the timer state becomes or is expired is when this script is going to trigger. In that case, we want to turn on the local alert, the strobe light. So we'll set the strobe setting to strobe. We could do the siren too, but we'll just do strobe for the demo. We'll say done. So when the timer times out, we will turn on the strobe light, update the gateway to compile it and send it to the gateway and activate it. And the final script we want to do is when the door is closed, we want the strobe light to turn off by itself. So we'll go back to scripts, create one final script here, create a new script. We'll call it door closed. And we'll trigger on the device of the door contact the property of contact switch, and we will trigger if it is closed. And if it is closed, we want to do a couple things. One is we want to turn off the strobe light. So we'll go to the local alert and set its strobe setting to off. And in addition, we want to stop the timer. So the timer may be running and not have timed out, in which case we want to stop the timer. So we'll go to the door timer and change the timer state to stop. So that way it won't expire if the door is actually closed. So we're doing a couple of things when the door is closed. We're turning off the strobe light and we're stopping the timer. So we'll compile that, send it to the gateway, and activate it. Excellent. So let's see this in action. We'll go back to the devices and we'll look at the door contact and the local alert. So if I were to open the door and see that the door is open and we close it in shorter than 10 seconds, nothing happens. The strobe light stays off. But if I open the door and keep that door open for longer than 10 seconds, then the script should have triggered the timer. The timer should time out, and the strobe light should turn on. So there it is. The strobe light's turned on, so the script is working well. So let's go ahead and close the door, and that should turn off the strobe light with our third script. And there it is. The strobe light is turned off. So let's add one more thing. We want to send an alert or a text message to the local store manager that the refrigerator's been left open too long. So let's do that. So first we want to create another virtual device, which is the text messenger itself. So we'll create a virtual device, add virtual device, and one of the options is a text messenger. So we'll add that, and let's name that something useful, such as the manager phone. And I'm going to go ahead and put my phone number in here for the demo. Okay, so that's been created. So let's augment or change that script that occurs when the timer times out. The door has been left open too long, so we'll go to the door timeout script and edit it. And we'll add what's necessary to send that alert. So we'll insert a line after. And what we'll do is we'll set the message of the manager phone, the text message. Say, warning, the door open too long. Perfect. And then we'll send that message to the manager. So we'll set the manager phone, the send message property to send. And that should be enough. So now we'll turn on the strobe light, we'll set a message, and we'll send it to the manager. We'll update the gateway. The script is already active, so we don't need to reactivate it. Let's go back and look at the devices. And so now I'll open the door, which starts that timer, and the timer is going to time out. So we'll see if that happens. There it is. So simultaneous to that, there it is. The message has come into the cell phone. So the message says, warning, door open too long. So the script worked. So we've been able to do the entire application now. We've added the devices, the door contact switch, the local alert device, the temperature sensor. We've been able to communicate them and link them to the wireless gateway, and we were able to create the scripts necessary for the application, triggering when the temperature rises above a certain level, and if the door is open for too long, messaging that to the manager. And we're able to create all of that and do the entire application in a short amount of time, just the length of this video. This is just one of many Quick Hits topics available at Systech.com. Take a look at other Quick Hits topics, and I'm sure you'll see one that you'll find valuable. For more information, check out IoT hardware and software solutions available from Systech Corporation. And leave a note there if you have ideas for future Quick Hits videos. Thanks, and have a great day.